Okay, we're on the air.
We are.
So welcome. We're here at we're take a little late start here because we had some equipment we had set up, so we apologize for that. But we're here at SIP in Highland, and we have a guest with us today, Pam Eanes. Eanes. Thank you. She could tell you I butcher names. I butcher my own last name, to tell you the truth. So we would like to welcome. We're going to be talking with her later on in the show. Yeah, let me
turn the sound down. Perfect.
WJOB never has any technical
No, we don't.
issues. No, we don't. So I'm going to start out with talking about the weather and take you through the weather here, what we've got coming up. So it looks pretty good from where we're standing right now. Today, obviously, it's a beautiful day, very sunny. Kind of cool. We should get up to about 51, which is not bad for this time of year.
Although they told us earlier this week it would be 55, so I'm disappointed.
Mother 4 degrees, yeah. So, tonight it's going to get down to about the 20, but it's still going to remain clear. Friday it's going to start clouding up a bit, and here's the reason why. We're going to have the front coming in just temporarily to enough to dump some wintry mix on us. But then that front is going to move on out, and a high ridge is going to come back in, and we're going to end up with sunny weather again. So let's look at the national map to give you a better idea of what's going on. So as you see, we have a lot of precipitation happening out to the west and the east. Those poor folks in the northeast have been just brutalized.
Been hammered this way.
Geez, I just couldn't only imagine, because it was like our polar vortex a couple of years ago. And so we're going to move over into a less complex map to show you what's going on Friday evening. So this is kind of a look at what's going on Friday evening. We have that low front that's going to be stationed over the area on Friday evening in through Saturday. And that's going to cause some wintry mix to move in, and not much. We're not going to get a great accumulation, but it's just enough to tease us and say, well, you know, we're still in meteorological winter, so there you go. So next thing we want to do is go over some events that are going on in the area. Let me see here. So what we have, and Kelly kind of helped me out here, if you will. What we have, March 24th from 8:30 to 9:30 a.m. we have breakfast with the Easter Bunny.
That's right. Highland Griffith Chamber of Commerce is sponsoring that.
And that's at Highland High School cafeteria.
At the cafeteria there.
And $6 per ticket.
Correct.
Limited tickets sold in advance, so
only in advance.
But then you can get them at the Lincoln Center,
the Highland Griffith Chamber office, Cakes by Karen, First Financial Bank, both on Highway Avenue and 45th, and Centier Bank, the one on Indianapolis. Well, there's two on Indianapolis Boulevard, and then also the Griffith location at 500 North Broad.
Right, and then on April 7th, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m., we have the Northwest Indiana Parkinson's 10th Annual Educational Symposium for Parkinson's disease. And we actually talked to some ladies last week.
They actually just happened to be here. It was 2 weeks ago, actually.
Right. And so that's going to be held at the Lincoln Center. Pre-register
by the 30th of March.
By the 30th, and the number. And by the way, we're putting these up on the screen for you, so
you can look up that information.
Exactly. And then we have a story times and other events at your local Lake County library. So those are always going on.
Right.
So
and you can find that information out by just going to events.lcplin.org. And that way you can find out all the different events that are going on at your local libraries. And they're always wonderful things to do with your children, with your family, genealogy, art classes, all different kinds of things.
And so then we have, this is interesting, the Big Fish musical.
Big Fish, the musical,
based
on the movie.
The Big Fish,
yes,
okay.
Big Fish, and at Lake Central High School. And that is this weekend, 15th, 16th, and 17th at 7 p.m.
All right, so we're going to go on to the next series of events. April 4th, 8 p.m., Tomfoolery Fun.
That's the 14th, actually. We need to change that.
April
14th of April, the Tomfoolery Fun Club.
My typo, sorry.
That's all right. It's a comedy concert series. It starts at 8 p.m. It's $20 at the Hoosier Theater in Whiting. Information is up there, tomfooleryfunclub.com for more information and to get tickets. Hi, we have another guest. Ken's here.
Yeah.
Just stop by to say hi.
Then we have the spring, don't forget the camera's right there, so don't go in front of the camera when you get a chance. Spring Craft Show and Vendor Fair on the 14th of April as well, 9 to 3 at Lincoln Center.
Right, so did we talk about that
The
one?
Spring Craft Show. Now we're going to the Hats
All right,
Entertainment,
so Hats
which is the
Entertainment.
next thing. Hats Entertainment, which is a musical celebration of hats.
Hold on.
Since you sat down here, is it just the camera? Do you need me to do it?
No, I think we're good right now. We can't see it because we've got signage up, but we should be good.
So
We got that issue going on there. All right. And then we've got, you missed the Hats Entertainment, but I'll go back to
Oh,
that.
hold on. Let me.
getting told the same thing over and over and over.
There we go. There's
All right.
Hats
And I'm letting
Entertainment.
them know.
All right, Hats Entertainment.
Hats Entertainment. It's a musical celebration of hats and a 4th Street Theater fundraiser. And it'll be featuring the talents of milliner Stanley Hodson, Kat Lutz, Amanda Joyner, Andrea Blom, and Jen Lundin. It's $20, and it will be the 13th, 14th, and 15th of April. Times are up there, and how to get tickets is all on that, so you can look that up. Go to brownpapertickets.com and give them a call. Yep.
All right, then the last bunch of events. Through March 31st, noon to close daily, the Easter Bunny at the Albanese Candy Factory, US 30 in Maryville.
That's right. You also missed this one. The Underground Prophets are going to be performing tomorrow night at 8 p.m. at Wild Rose Brewing Company in Griffith.
And then March 17th at 8 p.m., the JAMA
Show at the Nixon Conky in Hammond. Tickets are $10, and we're going to be there. So come see us, because those are my friends DJ and Jay McKay.
Then
Hespel.
Yeah, then Hespel. Oh, yeah, this is big because this is their first annual St. Patrick's Day Parade, March 17th, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., and that's going to step off at 173rd and Kennedy and go to 161st. So, knowing Hespel, they do up partying right.
That's right.
So that
and they've got a lot of wonderful sponsors, so it's going to be a big deal thing.
So then finally, we have March 16th, 17th, and 18th. The Ordinary Days, the musical. That's at 4th Street Theater in Chesterton.
Are we not doing these two as well?
No, we should, but somehow maybe they got clicked off.
Okay.
Yeah, so why don't we just mention those?
All right, and we'll also mention the American Legion Post 180 here in Highland is doing a St. Patrick's Day buffet, which is the 17th of March from 1 to 6. It's only $11, and they're going to have all the good corned beef and cabbagey stuff going on there at 2703 Jewett Avenue. It's just right off of Ridge Road. You can't miss it here in Highland. And then Native Plants 101 with Wild Ones President Carl Ackerman at Wild Birds Unlimited, 138 U.S. Highway 41 in Cherville, also on the 17th of March at 9 a.m. And for more information and to reserve your spot, call 219-319-0126.
let's get back to us. All right. So a couple of things that we wanted to talk about. We went over weather, the events now. The segment was Tee Them Up. And believe me, this is not directed at anyone here specifically. But, boy, one of the things, and this is, let's get our graphic up. Yeah, let's tee them up.
That's right.
So my first complaint, this is kind of, yeah, I was actually inspired by Kelly's rants and raves on this one, but these are a little bit, monstrative. But so people who don't return text, emails, voicemails, holy moly! I mean, it's kind of interesting. Is I love telling the story where I was dealing with a local person, and this was actually someone that was a government employee. And I couldn't get them on the phone. But here, and this is actually on a holiday, I picked up the phone and called a government center expecting to fully just leave a voicemail. And actually the person I was hoping to talk to picked up the phone. I was shocked. I think it was on Martin Luther King's Day out of all, and he was not supposed to be there. So man, I tell you what, when you're trying to schedule something and having multiple people that you're trying to involve, and you have someone that is a key part and they're just not returning the emails or voicemails, you're getting teed up today. Let me tell you that, pal. So my next thing that I want to talk, road blockers. And you've got these, it's just another means of passive-aggressive behavior. People that get involved in a political process that try to sidetrack the political process. Oops, we got a shot of
Ken's booty.
Your butt again. And yeah, for those people, I think we know all examples here. People that file complaints, people that just to sidetrack issues for no good reason at all. Those are getting my tee up today. Then I guess that's about it.
That sounds good.
Pam, do you have anyone you want to tee up? Don't mention the names, but...
No, things going pretty good. I don't have any tee up today.
All right, good.
Well,
right.
maybe the Indiana Democratic Party, I could tee up a little bit for not having a fair and impartial playing field for all the candidates, but that would be about the only one.
Yeah, we might get into that a little more, too.
Right. Let me make sure our stream is still going here.
It was interrupted at one point, I know.
Yeah. We'll keep on going and they'll catch up.
Keep on going, they'll catch up.
So, let's see what else we have here. Oh, what I want to talk about is some news events. Number one, just before we came on live, we just got the message that Hebron High School was on a lockdown.
Right, they're on lockdown right now. They're interviewing. They took out 2 students and are interviewing them.
Right. Again, this is something that we're going to be continually talking about on our panel discussion. Is school safety. There seems to be an upswing, and which brings us into our next topic, the walkouts that happened yesterday. All this, the students going out and we had this during the Vietnam, where people. This is getting into pretty much before my time, but I was a kid in elementary school at the time. But I remember my sister was all upset about the Vietnam War, and so what they did is had walkouts, sit-ins and walkouts. And now there's been a bit of controversy with the students walking out. Some of the school districts tried to actually stop it by offering a detention. So that's been kind of controversial day by day. So we had some school districts that really endorse it, and some that not so much. And we could talk about each school district. I believe Lake Central allowed their students to do so. Hammond schools, I believe they allowed walkouts. But some, they permitted them to happen, but gave the students detention. So in this day and age, I guess it's problematic. When you try to compare those two situations, the protest against the Vietnam War and against their own safety, I guess, one, you have your own physical skin in the game versus You are just making a political statement about the lives of others, about a war that we should never been in. And we could debate that to the end, and it still is going to be problematic. But, you know, again, we had these students that wanted to express their opinion. I know in Valpo, they actually had parents that came out and sat across from Valparaiso High School. A couple of those have messaged me.
Lutheran Church, where they allowed them to be in their
right across
there.
the Lutheran Church.
Yep.
And I guess they wanted to show, not only show their support, but make sure that they were not going to do anything to prohibit the students from participating in that. All important. You know, and that's something I think that at this point in time we've got to discuss further as a community and as a nation. You know, I think we're more polarized now than we ever have been in ages, at least that I can remember, since the early 60s. And we have taken sides with our respective political parties to where we don't come together and talk about issues. And that is problematic as far as I'm concerned, because it doesn't seem to be a middle anymore.
No, communication is key in anything.
And we're having a panel discussion of which we're continuing next week. But that panel discussion is going to be based upon what do we need to do to keep kids safe. And that's the and we, you know, right away, of course, we have one party saying we've got to have gun control. We got to have gun control. And I agree with that. You know, there should be some mechanism put in place. Number one, we don't have automatic weapons and semi-automatic weapons, or devices that turn long rifles into automatic weapons. We have to restrict that. Specifically, we have to restrict it from people who likely are going to cause harm.
Yes.
You know, and so, you know, I agree with that. But there's an important piece that because of this big rip in the political discussion that we are not discussing, that we talked about in our panel discussion, and that is the security factors inside the school. Mental health. We have a sharp rise, as we discussed last week on the show, a sharp rise in opiate use, drug use in the schools. And we have a sharp rise, and everyone knows this, and we've been battling it, and by state legislatures, the schools have to battle it, and that's bullying. Each one of these shooters that we've had in the past, 4 or 5 school shootings, was a past bullied person. So, you know, we sat down and talked to our group about what can we do to overcome that. And so it's got to be a multi-pronged approach that we seem to be approaching in our panel discussion. Yes, we do need gun control. But number two, what causes these people to cause mass murder, you know, to go out and commit mass murder? So those are things that I think we need to...
Well, there's a lot of factors, and they all need to be talked about. Fractured families and everything. I mean, there's just so much involved.
Right. You know, and families are going through struggles with economics, and we're a different society than we ever have been. So we'll continue talking about that. The other item that's come up and that I find greatly interesting is not only the investigation of Russia, collusion with Russia having to do
There
with...
is no collusion.
There is no collusion.
There is no collusion.
But now the FBI and the Homeland Security have come forward with a statement that they know that Russian intelligence agencies have gotten into or have hacked into our grid and some of our other systems, key systems within the United States. And now we are going to work against Russia. And you know, we've known this for 10 years. It's amazing. We've known Russia has tried to get into our systems, if not already have, for 10 years. And now all of a sudden we are going to take action. But again, it's something we need to be concerned about. And you know, when I was sitting on this is 10 years ago, I was sitting on a study group on what do we do to protect our systems. And you know, the recommendation of the group that I was a part of was take everything off the internet, take our power grid off the internet. You know, we're such in a big rush to put everything on the internet for convenience so that we can get access to it from home when we're away. But the danger is we're making ourselves susceptible to hacking.
That's right.
And
Send those kids back to the library to read those encyclopedias.
That's right.
Let's not go that far.
So
No, I love my Google.
that is where we're at right now. We've gotten the news points of interest in, and now we want to turn to our guest.
I know.
Pam,
Yay.
welcome to our show. We
Thanks for
appreciate you
having
coming
me.
here.
Thank you very much.
And we appreciate it. You got a cup of coffee, right?
I did have a cup of coffee, so I'm
We all
already
have our
wired.
big cup.
So you're all
She's wired up.
you're all
She's ready.
fueled up.
So I would like to say what I'm running for.
Yes.
So my name is Pam Eanes, and I am running for state representative, House District 12, which is mostly Munster, Highland, a little bit of Griffith, and a little bit of Hammond.
Wonderful.
So that's what I'm running for. I'm running against an incumbent Democrat, so my election is going to be May 8th. So everybody that wants to endorse me has to be out and vote by May 8th in the primary.
That's the primary. So
Yes.
yep. And so let's talk about some of your the platform that you're going to be running on.
Okay.
Let's talk about one thing that is a big concern, and it has been so, specifically in Northwest Indiana here, because Porter County, and although we don't represent Porter County, although they unfortunately represent the high increase in opiate use, and Lake County is not too far behind. It is kind of interesting. Porter County per capita is ahead as far as opiate use and overdose, but it is a concern statewide. So can you speak with, some of your thoughts if you are elected, what you hope to represent this area when you know that there's a large problem in the state of Indiana?
Okay, sure. First thing, I think Munster's trying to become the medical capital of the country with all the hospitals that we're building and everything.
Absolutely.
Between community and Franciscan. They're going crazy in Munster right now. But I think the first thing is to recognize there's a problem and decide to do something about it. And I think you need to really have everybody come to the table and sit down and take the recommendations from the experts on both sides, the pros and cons of what it is. But there is a problem, and a lot of people are overdosing and dying from it every year, and so we got to get a hold of this problem. So some factions want to have a list. So if you get opioids, then you go on the list. The other factions say we don't want a list because that causes more work for the doctors. So the truth of the matter is you can't have people going from doctor to get different opioids because that's what's causing the problem. You don't overdose, hopefully, with just one prescription. And I don't think people are overdosing on purpose. I think they're overdosing because they have too many pills. In fact, I don't think it's suicide overdose. I think it is the opioid for taking it too many. So I am leaning more towards having a registry for opioids, but I would definitely welcome a panel to discuss it and then make the decision from there.
Right, and then we have the steady stream, and it's more prevalent in Porter County, to be honest with you, but steady stream of heroin, fentanyl, and so on. Your feelings about that? What can and because opiate, it's almost but a different issue, but the same in a way. But we are having a hard time combating the influx coming in from Chicago.
Okay, so the thing is, if people want to get something, they're always going to get it, whether it's illegal drugs or prescription drugs. People are going to get it. So I think we need to start looking at the mental health issues and trying to understand why people want to have drugs that are taking them out of reality. What is the problem with reality for these people that they don't want to be in it? It's the same thing like you were talking about the schools and the bullying problem. Why is this happening? Why are people not connected to their local communities and to each other that they feel they have to escape? It's all an escape. And so I think we need to bring it back, get the mental health. We have to start funding the mental health issues. Even President Trump is finally starting to say that after cutting it, and that's what we need to do. We need to look at people and why they're doing what they're doing to harm themselves.
Right. And looking at mental issues and what's causing that. And when talking to Dave Reynolds out in Porter County, he says, there's only so much we can arrest. We have to look at the core problem of the problem, and that's where everyone seems to go. Law enforcement. Why aren't we correcting this problem? But the people pushing the drugs, they're getting more and more inventive in how to get around law enforcement.
The hardest thing I have a problem with is not as much the people doing drugs, but it's the people that are profiting off of this. There's people that are profiting off of all of this, and that's the real problem. I mean, why aren't we looking at whose bank accounts are picking up for no reason. I mean, why aren't we getting to the heart of the matter of who's really pushing this stuff to our kids and to other people?
Right, and that's coming down to, I know there was legislation that was proposed just recently that would hold the drug pushers accountable for overdose deaths and actually charging them with manslaughter.
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
And you know, that's why I think for people that are pushers, that they're held under state statute, and they're
Put
not.
some teeth into the legislation.
I mean,
Right.
if your kid doesn't go to school, the parents are held responsible for their truancy. I mean, it's the same thing. If you're a drug pusher and you are giving these people the wherewithal to do these things, they need to be held accountable.
Right.
That's what I think too.
Yep. So now let's move on now. Now let's talk about the economic factors in this area. And we talked before we came on air that we're looking at an increase of unemployment of about 1%.
1%. It was in New York, not New York. I read a lot of newspapers. It was in the Northwest Indiana Times today, and they said that Lake County unemployment rate went up 1% from December to January. Them were the figures that came out today. So I got some notes here. So Lake County is sitting at 4.3% unemployment now, which it was 4.3 in December. And so just to put that in perspective, the rest of Indiana is at 3.3%. So how come we're sitting 2% ahead of the rest of Indiana when the state of Indiana takes so much money out of Northwest Indiana region? I mean, they tax, look at the riverboat or the gambler boats here. They each have to pay $10 million a year just to start to fund the RDA. So that's $30 million that is not going to them local schools. That is not going to help them communities be fixed. And it's just everything they tax, everything comes from this area, but we have the most unemployment, and we put most of the money down there into Indianapolis. Illinois is even less than Northwest Indiana. Illinois is sitting at 4.8% unemployment, and as a nation they're at 4.1. But I just really think that Lake County is suffering hugely with this unemployment, and I think we need to get a grasp on jobs here. And it seems like everybody I talk to, the big thing is, well, let's send everybody to Chicago to get the jobs. You know, it comes down to, you know, I'm not for the train. That's how I got into this whole thing. But let's put people on the train, send them to Chicago, get the good jobs, and come back here. Well, that's obviously not happening because our unemployment is going up. So that whole theory is flawed. So I say let's bring the good jobs to Northwest Indiana. That's what we need to do. We have great natural resources in Lake Michigan and the dunes. And we have Gary and East Chicago are polluted. What we should do, how we should be creating jobs, is create jobs to clean up the environment of Gary and East Chicago. That would be a lot of jobs. And then bring clean energy jobs into this area. And then you would attract people, graduate college and they leave because they say there's nothing here for them. So if you have an area where you have so much natural resources and it's cleaned up and it's healthy living, and you bring the clean energy jobs here, I think it's a win-win for everybody. We don't need any more dumps in Gary. What we need is clean up Gary. That's what I gotta say.
Right, and yeah, that seems to be, you know, that area seems to be ignored a lot, but yet taken advantage of. And so, one of the things that we talked about is regional economic development. Yes. And what the role that the RDA plays, and whether some of their programs actually help economic development or hurt it in the area. Many people have come on our show, talked about the airport, the past history with the airport. We put in a couple of billion, was it, or what?
Yeah, I believe it's over.
Yeah, and now we, in fact, someone took a picture of it as they're going by, and still no commercial flights except for freight. I believe there's some freight coming out of there.
They're sending the DACA out of there too.
Yeah,
DACA, but they're sending the immigrants that they find ICE fines. They're flying them out of Hammond.
Right, and
or
so
Gary, Gary, yeah.
And so we look at this train, the double track, and then the Westlake development, and there's a big debate, huge debate, on whether those are actually going to improve the economic standing of the region or if it's going to hurt it. And multiple things of putting people on a train to work out of Chicago and make it easier for them to spend money. We have some fairly large, Hammond being one of them, a large city, and we have South Bend and Valpo and all that could benefit greatly by self-sustained economic development. And so, what are your feelings about the train project?
Well, I have friends that are both for the train and against the train. Personally, I am against the train, but I don't care which side of the issue you stand on. The way the train came about was wrong. We never had a referendum. By Indiana law, there was supposed to be a referendum. So that was the first thing. They took the power away from the people to decide what they're going to do. And then they started passing House Bill 1144, which basically funds this whole project, which takes more money away from all municipalities and all public services, all of Lake County, Porter County. There were 4 counties that ended up passing different parts of this legislation. But that's what people don't understand. And I've talked to the politicians. I was in Indianapolis speaking out against this bill because it's really hurting the individual communities. When they pass their development districts, they call them TDDs now instead of TODs, Transit Development District. When they pass that for 30 years, they're going to absorb all the new property taxes, local increment taxes, or local income tax, and your regular income tax. And the state already gets the regular, but the local and the property tax goes to municipalities now. Well, that's not going to the schools anymore. For the next 30 years, the base they'll keep getting. So if they're getting 5-10 million now, they'll keep getting 5-10 million. But for the next 30 years, that's all they get. They don't get any more than that, and that's the problem. How do you give raises? How do you do anything when we're handcuffing our future generations on today? So I have a huge problem with that. I think it should be more organically happen, and I think people should have a voice in it. I think people should be able to say if they're going to vote for it or not. And all these boards are not even elected boards; they're appointed boards. So if you don't even like what they're doing, you can't vote them out. But they're going to pass the bond issues, and you're going to be stuck with it. It's like a mortgage; you got to pay it back. And that's it. So the money will be gone from this area. And you just hope the RDA and the powers to be are going to do the right thing, but that's what I'm fighting against.
Right. So let's talk about your platform with that regard. What do you hope as a rep for the area to do to counteract some of this, as far as representation of the area, knowing what people feel in the region?
Well, I want to give the voice back to the people. I mean, I want people to have a say-so. If people agree with me or disagree with me, that's one thing, but at least have your voices heard. And that's what's happening now. Your voices aren't heard. The governor is appointing people to these boards, and their voices are heard, and this is what's going forward. They just gave Bill Hanna from the RDA a big raise. We had no say-so about that. I mean, no nothing. Just we think he's doing a good job, so here's a big raise for it. And that's more money out of our tax dollars. And if people don't like it, it's tough. You can't vote them out. You can't do anything. So I'm just wanting to bring power back to the people. I want people to get more involved in their communities and know what's going on, and just have an educated decision on this thing. It's like the state thinks that they have the best solutions for everything, and they don't really care about what the individual people are doing or saying, and it's just not right.
Right. So you would go down and at least represent the area in providing more oversight in this.
I would like, yes.
Trying to get some things changed so that we do have some voice into this.
So some of the stuff I don't like are conflict of interest. We have a huge conflict of interest with the RDA. We have a member that sits on the RDA board that owns property that's right by where they're building some of this stuff. And it's okay to have the conflict of interest to make it so you can sit on a board and you can make money off of property that you own that the taxpayers are going to have to buy and potentially develop on taxpayer money. But the only thing you have to do is report a conflict of interest. We have some of the weakest conflict of interest in the whole country. I would like to change that. You can't just have a conflict of interest and say, I have a conflict of interest, declare it, and then make it legal. I say that's like somebody breaking into my house, grabbing my TV, and as they're walking out, the cops are ready to bust them. And they said, oh yeah, I stole the TV, and the cops say, oh okay, well as long as you admit it, it's good.
Yeah.
No, it's not good.
Or I told friends I was going to do it before I did it, so therefore there's no conflict of interest.
It does not make it right. I mean, government should be there for the people, not for themselves, not to make money off of us. I was a public servant for 30 years in Kansas City. I was a firefighter. I'm a retired firefighter. And I was there for the people. I served the people, and that's what I think politicians should do. They should be there for the people and serve the people and the people's wishes. That's what really needs to happen.
Right, and Yeah, I hear that. And it's kind of refreshing to hear that from some of the elected officials that they say, you know, you're our boss. Is what they usually tell the taxpayers, and that is kind of a refreshing stand, or hear that out of an elected official, because in a sense we're the people that put them there, and even employees. You know, in fact, I think there's some sense of entitlement when you go to work for a whether it be a school or for a county, and to me, that just raises the bar of your expectation even more. You've got 10, 20,000 bosses sitting out there you have to report to. So let's move on. Let's talk about what's on everyone's mind. Schools are on everyone's mind, coming from school safety and funding. Let's talk about school safety for a bit, because it seems to be on everyone's mind right now. The walkouts, and gun control, and versus what inside safety. Can you give us your opinions about what's going on with school safety, where we should be, and what you can make happen as far as representing this area and making sure that good legislation is being put forward to assure that these kids are safe?
Okay, so the first thing that everybody needs to know is nothing can happen until the preemption laws change in the state of Indiana. Indiana has some of the strictest preemption laws that say that you can't make any new law that's stricter than what's on the books in the state right now. It's actually, the law doesn't hold up, and that's what happened with Noah's Law for Hammond after Noah got shot with the gun that was, shot was up in the air and it came down. So you can't even write legislation to say that you cannot shoot a gun up in the air, because it's not on the books right now, so that would be a new law. So you can't write any new laws into, so you can't say that there could be no semi-automatic or automatic guns or whatever you're going to call them. You can't put them laws on the books today. So that's the first thing that needs to change, is the preemption laws, because I think communities are different. If you're in a high-density county, you need different laws than if you're in a rural area. It's not the same all over the state, and the laws shouldn't be the same all over the state. So that's the first thing we need to look at. The second thing is everybody that's shooting up the schools are teenagers or early 20s. I mean, none of these guys are over 21 years old. I would like to see the age to buy guns, both the rifles and the handgun. Handgun is 18 now. I would like to see it go to 21, just to kind of stop that. But I also think what you said was the bullying aspect. I mean, you have the bullying aspect in school, and so we need to get people more involved with each other, more engaged with each other.
Again, conversation. It all comes down to words.
I am not for arming teachers in schools, I will say that. I don't think that is the solution at all. I am not opposed to a resource officer being at school that is armed, and people say, well, that didn't work in Broward County, at the school down there, but there's some stories going back and forth on why he didn't do anything. But that'll all have to come out before I make a judgment on that. But I think we need to do something and not talk about it and say hopes and prayers. That don't work anymore, and that hasn't worked for a long time. So I think we need to get serious and start working about it. And I really think the kids are great, and I think our generation has missed the boat, because I think this should have been dealt with a long time ago. And I think no matter what we want to do, the new generation is going to make it happen.
That's right.
I mean, you've
so
talked
proud
about
of
that.
Those kids.
Right. If they walked out and they got to have a detention, you know what? That's just going to want to make them fight harder, because when you have to give up something to go with your convictions or your beliefs, them kids, they're believing in this. And if we don't think they are, we're highly mistaken. They're going to change a lot of laws, not just these laws. They're going to change a lot of laws. And I want to make it clear, too, because I have friends that are calling me and asking me about this, because I was at a Lake County council meeting the other day. I think it was Monday. I don't know what day it was. The days run together for me anymore. Yep. But I was there the other day, and they passed a resolution to reform gun control laws. I'm not against the Second Amendment. I am not against people owning guns for their safety or for hunting or even target shooting. I'm not against any of that stuff. What I'm against is criminals having guns. And I'm trying to find out a way how to get criminals for having guns. And I read the papers, and I know what's going on. And a lot of the private cells are to criminals that shouldn't have the guns. So that's what I would like to see, and that's what most of that legislation is about. So you can't do a private sale. That's what they're asking for. It was just a resolution. It can't be the law. But that's what they were asking for. The private sales have to do a background check also for criminal felony record, for mental health. If you're a drug abuser or if you're an alcoholic, you're not supposed to be able to buy a gun. So that's all it was. That's all they were asking for.
Right, and one thing that I think would be helpful to listeners and is explain these laws that are at the state level prevent local municipalities from having any gun enforcement laws themselves, in which what was going on at the county council and at city council meeting in Valpo. And I know there's a lot of people that are frustrated over that, but really the state has tied the hands of local municipalities and counties to act on their own to keep their citizens safe. So, one of the things I think that was discussed during the county council meeting was trying to prevent those gun shows from happening at the Lake County Fairgrounds. But the state law says they can't do that. They have to allow them to happen. So what is your position on that? Like the gun shows and so on.
The gun shows. So, me personally, I'm not against the gun show being at Lake County, but I'm against. I think we should be good neighbors to Illinois. Illinois has some of the strictest gun laws in the whole country, and yet they have some of the highest crimes. But most of the crimes that are committed in Illinois are from guns that are coming from Indiana. I mean, what kind of neighbors are we? I mean, talk about putting profit over people. That's what we're doing. We're saying, hey, it's okay, as long as I can make money off of this sale, I can sell to whoever. And that's wrong. And we have to start saying what our values are as human beings. What are our values? Is our value for people, or is our value for money and profit? And that's what we have to look at everything. And you know what you said before, though, with the preemption laws, I mean, don't you see a theme happening here? Like the government of Indiana is trying to take more and more control away from people. When you got the preemption laws, when you're taking the tax dollars away and you're giving them to all government-appointed boards, when everything you're doing is taking power away from the people, and that's what I'm about, is giving power back to the people so the people have a say-so. And I just wish people would wake up and realize that everything is being chipped away. Their rights are being chipped away and they don't even know it.
So if I kind of summarize some of the things that you've talked about so far, you talked about the different communities in Indiana. We're vastly different. Northwest Indiana is mostly industrial. Southern Indiana is mostly urban and rural areas. But yet we're governed by the same laws. And what I hear you saying is that it makes greater sense to let those municipalities, let those areas govern themselves as far as laws that specifically address it, whether it be economic development, whether it be safety issues, and those type of things. Is that correct?
That is correct. So, and it goes, like you say, from safety to economics. And I think a community will know what's best for the community. And I don't think one law fits all communities, and that's the problem we have. But we have mostly we have a supermajority, and I think whenever you have a supermajority on either side, it's not healthy. You need the checks and balances of what happens, and you need the debate, and you need to talk to each other. And just because you have different ideas, don't mean that you're my enemy and I hate you. I mean, everybody needs to come together at the table, and politics needs to get back to being about the people instead of about the individual. I'm Republican and I'm a Democrat, and I take my stance and that's it. It's got to get away from that, so we can really get some stuff done.
Right, and where you are from in the state itself.
But what just happened is, so Munster last month, I mean, we're maxed out on the bonds that we could take. So they created this whole idea they needed to fund the 45th Street. So they come up with a new finance vehicle to get $6 million to finance the 45th Street because they don't have it, because their bond debt is at close to the 2%, which is the state limit. So they come up with something new so they can figure out, and so they basically, what they did is they leased Town Hall back to themselves to get the $6 million. So basically they opened up a new credit card because their other one was maxed out, and I don't know, and people just got to really start paying attention to what's going on in their own communities and what the state is doing to take away, by the time you wake